Seeing this verdict today, guilty on all counts, what was your just initial reaction to that outcome?
There are many different, I had many different emotions. One of them is I think that this will, at some level, hopefully allow closure for this incident and allow us as a community and as a department to start working together on what do we want our police department to look like, what do we want from our police department, and what are those next steps. And so this provides at some level some closure for us, while also acknowledging that while this incident may have closure, and I would argue that there's probably many people that, regardless of the verdict, they're not satisfied because there's still work to do. This also now opens up another door where we need to move forward as well.
And so what are some of the steps that are going to be the most important in terms of moving forward?
So we're still going to have our local police reform discussions with the mayor's office, with the council president, and with some of the community leaders as well. And that should be forthcoming in the next several weeks. So we are going to talk about Spokane specific issues, Spokane specific incidents, and hear from these community leaders. What do you want from the police department? What don't you want from the police department? So that's going to be a major step forward. But the reality is, as a police department, we exist to serve the community. So whatever those next steps are, they have to be lockstep with the community as well. It can't be the police department telling the community, we're just going to do this or we're just going to do that. We need to work together with the community.
Now, there's been a lot of people who have been saying that this verdict is something of a turning point when it comes to accountability for law enforcement, because historically, oftentimes when police officers are charged with crimes, they're not found guilty. This is one of those cases where he was found guilty across the board, obviously. Do you agree with that assessment? Do you think this is a sort of turning point when it comes to law enforcement accountability?
I feel like the last year has really seen a major evolution in law enforcement, whether it's this incident, whether it's the George Floyd incident, whether it's Baltimore. I think you've really seen a steady progress over the last several years of law enforcement having to evolve because of all of the different national incidents that had occurred. So I think this is absolutely one more step in that direction. I feel like this journey has really started several years ago, and now we are further down the road. In fairness, I think law enforcement will continue to evolve for the term of our existence. We have to always evolve. We have to always progress if we want to stay relevant. So I think this is another step forward in that journey.
I'm also curious, just as a member of the law enforcement community, when you saw the video of what's now been decided to be a murder, what was your reaction to the conduct of Derek Chauvin in that video?
Again, I certainly don't want to speak for all law enforcement, but I will speak for a lot of law enforcement and a lot of law enforcement that I've had conversations with. I think there were a number of different emotions. There was frustration, there's anger, there's disappointment, and there was even sadness because we knew what was going to follow for all law enforcement anywhere in the nation. And even though this incident happened multiple states away, we knew that was going to have an impact on us here as well. So yeah, there's just a full gamut of emotions.
Yeah. I'll let the other reporters go ahead and start jumping in now if you guys want.
Hey, Chief, Luke from KHQ.
Hey, Luke.
Hey, I think Casey hit a lot of the big stuff, but I'm just wondering, there's a brother and sisterhood among the blue, the badge. I'm just wondering how you reconcile the celebratory nature of today's verdict with a brother in blue who's going to jail.
Being a chief is always challenging. Really, as a chief of police, you have one foot in the community and you should have one foot in your agency as well. You need to keep your agency motivated and moving in the direction the community wants to go. You want them to go out and you want them to keep the community safe. You want them to engage with the community. You want them to engage in community policing. So chiefs constantly have this constant, almost juggling act of having to be mindful of the community while also keeping your department motivated. So in this scenario, we need to hear from the community, but we also need to support our police officers. And when they go out and do a good job, which they do 99% of the time, they do a phenomenal job. And we need to recognize that. And me as a chief, it's also part of my responsibility to make sure that our entire agency isn't painted with this broad brush because of an incident that happened several states away, while also acknowledging there's a segment of the community that distrusts law enforcement. So you have these two almost dichotomies in terms of the emotions that these entities are feeling. So I have to work with both of those entities, and I have a strong role in being that bridge as well. Did that answer your question, Luke?
Yeah, yes, it did. Thank you very much. And this will be my last question. But as we're talking right now, there's a situation unfolding in Columbus, Ohio. A police officer shot a Black person, not unclear gender. Twitter's saying 15-year-old Black girl. That hasn't been confirmed that I've seen. So there is still work to be done here.
Yeah, and that's the challenging thing as well too, is because as police officers, we're told to go collect the information when you go into these incidents, whether it's domestic violence or someone that is under suspicion of DUI or a burglary. You go in there and you let the evidence speak to what happened. The challenging time, and no more challenging ever in the history of law enforcement than the season we're in now, is the community wants those instant answers. But we also know these investigations can take a fairly long time. So again, you have community expectations of wanting answers right now and expecting answers right now. And then you have a profession that has been trained to go into these things and wait to formulate any kind of a conclusion until you have all that information. So again, you see that these things are again, there's such challenging incidents to handle. And again, you have competing, for lack of a better word, competing interests of wanting to tell the community and get everything out that you possibly can right now, tomorrow, 2 days, a week from now. That's too late for a lot of people. And yet you may not have all that information yet because you haven't interviewed everybody or you haven't looked at the evidence. So again, you see that we just continue down this path of I guess, stressing the importance of that community trust in your agency. If you have a community that trusts their law enforcement, they may look at an incident and they may say, we don't like that. But you know what? Because you've worked with us, because we trust you, we're willing to wait until all of the evidence is reviewed. Versus if you have a community that doesn't trust their law enforcement, they want those answers right now. And if you don't give them their answers, they're going to connect dots. Whether those dots are there or not, they're going to connect those dots. And we've seen in a lot of other communities what happens when those dots may be connected. The entire community can suffer. So that's why law enforcement plays such a pivotal role in communities moving forward. And a central pillar of that moving forward is that community trust and that relationship.
I think I'm good.
Hey, Brian, you said you're good?
Yep.
Luke said he's
We're
good.
good.
Oh, okay. Brian, do you have anything?
Nope, I was not in my head in agreement with Luke. Good to go.
Okay, we didn't see your head not in agreement. So, all right, then, Chief, anything additional?
I think I said it, but I'll just repeat. You know, now is an even more pivotal time in law enforcement than we've seen any time in our past. Our next steps forward have to be taken hand in hand with the community, and we need to work together with the community in deciding what is the future of law enforcement going to be. So as a Spokane Police Department, we're going to continue working with the community. We're going to try to strengthen those bonds so that we can move forward with the community, because we exist to serve the community.